So I had a school assignment for an interview for one of my classes, and I decided to ask Ingraven, aka Team Keep It Clean, aka Justin. You guys already know who it is, man. I asked him if he would help me out, and of course he obliged, and this is going to be that video. Now, one thing is that it was filmed before the Bengals game, okay? So try to keep that in mind throughout this interview, because I know, I'm sure some of his answers might have changed if this had actually taken place after the Bengals game, after that abomination of just missed tackles everywhere, no running game whatsoever, terrible offensive line. Regardless, I've already vented about that game. And those day one disciples, and I mean actually day one, you guys, I really doubt anybody has seen this, but I actually interviewed Ingraven a long time ago, man. Like, when I was barely starting this YouTube stuff. So, I mean, for us to just kind of come full circle and to have another interview, but back then I didn't know how to ask questions. Now I'm obviously a lot better, a lot more knowledgeable at that type of stuff. Hope you guys enjoy this. Once again, this was just after the Chargers game, right before the Bengals game, all right? Welcome to Ravens Fan Reacts. I am your host, Jose Verduzco. And today we are joined by Justin Ingram, better known as Ingraven. Ing, thank you so much for joining us here tonight, man.
Oh yeah, no problem. Appreciate you having me on.
So today we're going to be discussing the Baltimore Ravens, as we usually do.
Okay.
So, Ingraven, you've been a fan of the Ravens ever since you saw Ray Lewis come out with that explosive entrance doing the infamous squirrel dance. What would you say has been the most enjoyable aspect of covering the Ravens for you?
Probably getting different people's opinions and getting different aspects of something that, like, I may have a certain viewpoint on something and may feel like, all right, this is the way that it is and this is why it is. But I really appreciate when I can hear from other people who are looking at the same subject, but they have a completely different viewpoint on it. So I like hearing different people's thoughts on different things in regards to the Ravens and just NFL period. And I really appreciate getting other people's opinions.
What were your expectations for this team coming into the season after the draft?
AFC Championship. I felt like they would be good enough to get to the AFC Championship. I mean, I felt like they've been good enough to get there the past couple of years, but they just had some hiccups along the way, some coaching problems and this and that. But I said AFC Championship.
This team has obviously dealt with multiple crucial injuries, as the most players on IR out of any team in the NFL. We just saw the Ronnie Stanley news, which is heartbreaking. Both our running backs, J.K. and Gus, Marcus Peters. How did these injuries affect your expectations for the team?
It just made me feel like the next man up would have to step up that much more. Now, I did not expect them to be 5-1 at this point of the season, but I just felt like it was like, man, blow after blow after blow. It's like, what's next? That's how I felt at one point. Like, what's next? Who's gonna be next? Because you just felt like it was always somebody coming next. And I mean, after all those injuries, we did continue to get injuries through the season, and then Ronnie Stanley, he got added to the injured list, like you said. But with the Ravens, somebody said it, and I know a lot of people feel that way, and it may sound cheesy, but if they have Lamar Jackson, as long as they got him, they always have a chance. And with the way that he's really willed this team to get again 5-1, and they could have been 6-0. They could have had a worse record too. But to get this team to 5-1 despite all those injuries says a lot about him. Says a lot about John Harbaugh and the coaching staff too, in the front office, for them to have assembled a team that could make it this far and be this powerful this early.
Yeah, I don't think any of us expected for the Ravens to have such a good record right now, be the first seed in the AFC as of right now after all those injuries. But what would you say, which injury do you think has affected the team the most?
I would say the injuries to the running backs, whether it be J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards, because I was somebody who said it a lot of times that even though those injuries did hurt, that they could plug and play guys back there at the running back position, because with Lamar Jackson, when you have a quarterback like that, then it makes every running back's job that much easier because teams have to focus so much on him, whether he's going to throw the ball, whether he's going to run the ball. You have to focus on what he's going to do so much that the guy right next to him may not get as much attention. And I really thought that they could just put anybody back there, and they've had Le'Veon Bell, they've had Tyson Williams, they've had Latavius Murray, and they've had Devontae Freeman, but it's just not the same. It hasn't been the same as having J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards back there. And it just really made me appreciate them as players that much more and realize just how gifted and how talented they were that much more because the running back position for the Ravens is not just simply plug and play.
See, I was a person that would always say running backs don't matter. You just stick anybody back there and they'll have success. Well,
Right.
we are finding out this year, like you said, that that's not necessarily the case because
Right.
these older fellows definitely not having as much success as we would like to see.
Mm-hmm.
IngravenVids here on Ravens Fan Reacts. I am Jose Verduzco. We are currently discussing the Baltimore Ravens and the injuries that they have dealt with. Despite all the injuries, this has been a memorable season with some insane endings to the games.
Mm-hmm.
The OT loss to the Raiders in Week 1, finally beating Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. That 66-yard field goal against the Lions. The
Sheesh.
comeback against the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
What game would you say has resonated the most with you so far?
That's a tough question because these have been some crazy games, and it's almost like a relief and kind of weird at the same time for the games against the Broncos and the Chargers where the Ravens have won, but those have been where they won convincingly, and the game was over way before the clock hit zero.
Comfortable. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. A comfortable lead and a comfortable win. The one for me, man. I mean, really, all of them, man, because they stop so many narratives. They shut down so many narratives when it comes to the Ravens, and so much things that a lot of people said that they couldn't do, and some things that they hadn't done. One of those was beating the Chiefs because they finally beat the Chiefs, and the Chiefs, and I expected them to lose that game. So it was like a nice, pleasant surprise, and I knew they had a chance to win, but I still expected them to lose, especially with all the injuries that they had. But finally beating Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs for the first time under Lamar Jackson, Lamar versus Patrick Mahomes. They finally got that win out of their system. And then with the Lions game, oh man, all the drop touchdowns and it's like you're thinking in the back of your head, especially on the last drive, especially when it's 4th and 19. Like you go through so many different thought processes, but one of them is like, oh man, these Lions, they are 0-2.
Right.
We're 1-1. Man, we getting ready to have the same record as the Lions when this game like that. Oh, I was thinking about that whole and then the fourth, then they convert a 4th and 19. I'm like, what? And then they make a 66-yard. I'm like, what is this, man? It doesn't make any sense. So that one, and then of course the Colts game being down by 19 at one point in the second half, being down by 19, and the offense had been stagnant throughout the game, and for them to just get it clicking and get it moving. So and come back and then the overtime and just Lamar threw for over 400 yards and all the touchdowns and then he didn't throw any interceptions. Now and in that game, it was so much that was just going wrong because the offense wasn't moving, and then they fumbled at the 1-yard line. Even though I thought he was down, but they fumbled at the 1-yard line, turned the ball over right there, and it's just like, oh goodness. But they pulled it out. So, but if I had to choose one, I would probably say the Chiefs game.
I would have to agree with you. I think the Chiefs game was my favorite of the year just because of what it meant for the Ravens and the fact that Lamar had never beaten Patrick Mahomes. The Colts one was great as well, but I would probably have to pick the Chiefs as well. You mentioned Lamar throwing for his first 400-yard passing game in his career. He's really improved so much this season. What has impressed you the most this year about his performance?
His poise, his poise, and his decision making. And when I say poise, I just mean his calmness when everything is going wrong, when everything is just being unraveled, when everything is going bad. He's obviously shown his signs of frustration and whatnot, but he still has remained calm. He hasn't like let the game slip out of his hand to where he just starts playing all kinds of terrible and starts like pressing for a long time. There have been times when he's like pressing a little bit, but he doesn't do it consistently. So I would definitely say his poise and with his decision making, he's been making some phenomenal decisions, and he's just, despite a lot of times being down, despite being even down multiple scores in multiple games and having come back and won those games, it just says a lot about his poise this year and where he is mentally as a quarterback and as a leader of the Ravens.
It also helps having some of his receiving options really having good seasons. I'm thinking of Mark Andrews here. He's really come into his own and established himself as one of the best tight ends in the NFL.
Hey.
What can he do to get to that next level and show he belongs in a conversation with someone like Travis Kelce, for example?
It ain't nothing but consistency. Moving forward, nothing but consistency from here on out. Because we know Mark Andrews, we know he can make all the plays. But I think it's just getting rid of a lot of the easy drops. And not saying that there won't be any drops, because I mean every wide receiver, every tight end, they drop a pass here and there. But just really eliminating those easy drops. Mark Andrews, the thing about him, he will make the tough catches. Like I remember 2 games ago in the Colts game, Lamar threw it to him. He's running and he catches it with one hand.
The one-hander.
And then he gets hit by the safety in the head, and he gets not, but he still makes a catch.
Yep.
But then earlier on in that same game, he had dropped one where he was wide open. So I'm like, man, like if he just eliminates those or eliminates them for the most part, the easy drops and whatnot. But yeah, like I said, just really consistency, because he is one of the top tight ends right now. I mean, Kelce and Kittle, I think they still got him, but he's like this year, he's right there. And I mean, right now he is tied for first in receiving yards by a tight end. I think with 458, him and Kelce have the same amount of receiving yards. So all he got to do is keep it going, and you know Lamar gonna feed him, so he'll be good.
The drops, the inconsistencies. I think we could say the same thing about someone else on this offense, someone known as Hollywood Brown, aka Marquise Brown. Lamar has a bunch of young receiving options that are trying to make themselves known, including Hollywood Brown. He's probably had his best season, despite those drops. Yeah. Devin Duvernay slowly integrating himself into the offense. Same thing with James Prochet. We just saw Rashad Bateman make his debut.
Oh, yeah.
Who do you expect to separate themselves from the pack over the rest of the year?
I would say Hollywood Brown. He definitely got to clean up the drops, because he has dropped 3 touchdowns so far. And also a play that would have been like a 40-50 yard play. So he's definitely got to clean up the drops, but I would say him, because him and Lamar, the connection is there. And one thing that's definitely improved from last year to this year has been the deep ball connection. So that's certainly there. And also Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman, yeah, last week was his first game, but I was worried that there would be like a chemistry issue, since obviously him and Lamar, they practice together and whatnot, but they never played in an NFL game together. There was no chemistry issue whatsoever. He looked like he had been out there for the first 5 games too, even though he hadn't been. He looked smooth, he looked comfortable. The moment didn't seem too big for him, and that they were going up against a really good team. But he came through. Every catch that he had went for a first down. So I would definitely say Hollywood and Rashad Bateman, and especially too, because those are going to be the guys that are out there more. Even when Sammy Watkins gets back, those are going to be the guys that get the most opportunities as well.
So we've seen some up and down performances from the offense this season. I think you could say the same thing for the other side of the ball, the defense. Yes. We've seen some bad performances, but we've also seen some good performances, like this last week against the Chargers, of course, as well as the Broncos. What direction do you see this defense heading after those up and down performances?
Right. It's a tough one, because I do see them heading upwards. They got another tough challenge this Sunday against the Bengals. But I think a lot of what the Ravens have struggled with this season on defense has been tackling. It's been poor tackling. And when they sort of benched Patrick Queen and they had Josh Bynes take his spot,
Yep.
and they had Patrick Queen still line up next to him, when they demoted Patrick Queen,
Right. Right.
that helped a lot. And it sort of reminds us of the 2019 season when Patrick Onwasu, I believe, he was a starting inside linebacker and he was struggling.
Peanut. Yep.
So they brought back Josh Bynes again,
Right.
and LJ Ford to help man the middle, and things completely turned around big time. So I'm hoping that it has that same impact. I know Ravens defense is not going to be great every single week, but I do see them headed to more consistency, because that's what we want: consistency. We know they're not going to lock down every single team, which we would love, but that'd be an unrealistic expectation. But I do see them being better, and especially when it comes to the pass defense too, because for the past couple of weeks, minus the Chargers game, the past couple of games before that, they were missing Deshaun Elliott. And with Deshaun Elliott, I know he's a thumper, he can hit, but as far as a pass coverage and whatnot, I just felt like, oh yeah, Deshaun Elliott's cool and whatnot. He's a good safety, but is he if he's out, will the Ravens really miss him? But he showed like, yeah, they did. And when he made his comeback, he like brought this crazy energy to the defense, and he even got his first interception of the game. But his he stepped up a lot. Chuck Clark, he stepped up a lot. And to have those two together, that just improved a lot of communication. It improved the play. It just improved so much. So I expect, like I said, I expect just more consistency from the defense moving forward.
You talked about the Ravens' upcoming matchup against the Bengals. Obviously, not going to be the same as we've seen in the past few years against the Bengals. It's not just going to be an easy matchup here. Definitely going to be a tough one. And I'm sure the Ravens are focused on that.
Yeah.
But I want to go bigger picture right now.
Okay.
We know what's on Lamar's mind at all times. He's always bringing it up, a Super Bowl. How do you like this year's Ravens' chances of putting it all together and achieving that goal of winning a third Lombardi?
I do think they have a realistic shot at winning the Super Bowl. And one of the biggest reasons I feel that way is because of the advancements in the passing game. Now, going into the season, they brought in Keith Williams and they brought in T. Martin, guys who are the passing game coaches, and they brought those guys in specifically for the passing game. And they got good resumes and whatnot. They've trained some really great receivers in the league, like Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, and of course Sammy Watkins. He worked with Keith Williams too. But so when Ravens hired those guys, I was thinking, okay, yeah, the passing game will improve. How much will it improve? I don't know. Maybe like 5 spots higher or something, because they were like, I think last year they were either 32nd ranked in passing or 27th ranked. It was something in the bottom 5. But now they are top 5. And I'm like, what is this? Like, it's so weird that for a Ravens team, one of the focal points of a defense is, can you stop that passing game? And that's so weird to say as a Ravens fan, because we're not used to that. But I do think they seriously have a realistic shot at the Super Bowl simply because of that, because they have their running game. And I feel like one of the biggest problems with the running game, it is the actual running backs and not having their guys, but they still have been managing. So with the passing game, especially in today's NFL, for them to have a good passing game as so weird, man. But for them to have a good passing game as this Ravens team, that helps them that much more, and that can make them that much more dangerous. And another thing too is that the team, I mean, they're never going to be fully healthy this year. It's impossible. They lost so many people for the year already. But as they right now, them sitting at 5-1, they're not even completely as healthy as they can be. Because they still got guys that are going to be coming back from injury, and significant guys too, like a Nick Boyle, and he can help a little bit in the passing game, but he helps more so in the running game because he's one of the best blocking tight ends in football. So that will help their chances of just everything that much more. They're not playing with Sammy Watkins right now, and we've seen him through the first 4 games. He's been playing great, and he's helped out the other receivers that much more. So with Lamar Jackson and Hollywood and Bateman and all, when Sammy Watkins is healthy, and to have all of those guys at the same time, and Mark Andrews and then Duvernay and Prochet, it makes the game that much more dangerous. And with Lamar, with just him showing again the poise and him showing the comeback ability, that's made him that much better, and that's just made all of them that much better. And the Ravens have shown like what's the only thing next for them to do is win more in the playoffs, because they finally got over that hump of beating the Chiefs. They've shown that they can come back from being down. They've shown that they can come back from being down multiple scores. They've also shown that they can win the close games, because that had been a Ravens problem for a while. Just consistently being able to win the close games. And I know it was more so under the Joe Flacco era, but it happened here and there with under Lamar Jackson as well. But they shown all this. So now next step, obviously, to take care of your business in the regular season, but really just make it happen in the playoffs too.
Yeah, and hopefully some of those doubters will be converted. I doubt it. I mean, those guys like Stephen A. Smith might never come off of it. But Ing, thank you so much once again for joining us. I am Jose Verduzco for Ravens Fan Reacts. And Ing, hopefully we get to see you again, and we'll get to speak once again very soon here.
Oh, yeah.